judge for EWA 2019 with this flash video review of this year's overall winner, The Rest is Riddles by C.M.F Wright. The Rest is Riddles gives a fresh, contemporary take on an age-old fantasy theme. Magical kingdom in dire peril turns to an unlikely hero to be their savior. In this flash video review, I'm going to take a few passages directly from the story and comment on what is so exceptional about them. What better place to start than right at the beginning? The scar on Nikolai's forearm was thin and white, with intricate offshoots that branched like fractals across his skin. It ran from the crook of his elbow all the way down his arm, stopping just before his hand, where it wrapped around to encircle his wrist like a shackle. No sword or knife could have produced such a scar, only magic. Right now, the scar was burning. What we have here is a case study in how to write an effective opening. The writer gives us those great visuals of fractals and shackles without veering off into a lot of dense prose trying to describe every loop and curl of the scar. Rather, the scar serves as a spark, sort of ignition switch to get the cogs of the plot going. We see that the scar is burning and something exciting is about to happen. Let's move on to the second chapter, where we are first introduced to the story's main protagonist, Jane Constance Wang of Waltham, Massachusetts, a straight-A student who is about to have her world upended by the sudden appearance of a scaly, fanged, crimson-eyed monster. But we're going to skip past that part and go directly to Jane's internal recounting of the event. Okay, so I went to my uncle's workroom to escape Sandra. A weird metaphysical phenomenon popped into existence between the dead spider plants and Uncle Bauer's desk. The monster grabbed me and pulled me through the portal, let's call it, and now said monster is in an ashy heap on the floor, which makes no sense at all. What we get here is more than just a summation of the previous events. We get an insight into Jane's thought processes, the way she puts things in a logical sequence, a progression, and tries to assign proper labels to them. We get a feel for her bookishness with that phrase, weird metaphysical phenomenon. And most of all, we see her matter-of-factness, her fearlessness, let's call it, in the face of dangerous and unexpected circumstances, that first glimmer of bravery which she's going to need to face the dangers ahead. Speaking of dangers, I want to end the review with a passage that gives you a feel for the type of action that we see in this story. Jane scrambled away from the man's still form. His neck was bent at an angle too acute to be healthy, and his chest did not move. But of course he can't breathe anymore, Jane thought. A spinal transection would mess up the nerves innervating his diaphragm. And then it hit Jane that her attacker was dead. She was staring at a dead man's body. All around her, riders battled more blue-clad men. Jane did not know where to look, what to do. The clamor was deafening, and she was unarmed, defenseless. Down, said a cold, unruffled voice. Before Jane's sluggish brain could think what that meant, a force pressed her to the ground. The breath whooshed from her lungs, and she gasped with the pain of it. Metal sang nearby, and heat singed her shoulder. She heard a screech of agony, abruptly extinguished. She pressed her face into the ground and shut her eyes. Once more we see not just an action sequence, but we see the the character of Jane placed directly within that sequence, and the reader by proxy as well. We see how Jane reverts to her biology lessons in the face of this physical violence and death which she's never encountered before. We can feel in the rapid drumbeat of the prose that the events unfolding around her, the shock of it, the visceral response of her body, and the sweep of the story as it carries you along deeper into it. But now at this point, reader, if you want to find out what happens, you should head over to Wattpad and check out The Rest is Riddles by C.M.F Wright. And C.M.F Wright, if you're listening to this, first of all, congratulations. And now, go finish your book.